Tyson Fury, the world's greatest current boxer, will soon be retiring from competitive boxing. So will he finally be open for a fight against a champion from another league? In today's video, we're going to be discussing everything involved in the Ngannou vs. Fury rumors that are circling the internet, and whether or not this fight is actually going to happen. Stick around, because you won't want to miss a single second of this video. First, Fury will be hanging up the gloves at the end of the month. April of 2022 will certainly be an emotional month for boxing fans, as the heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury, is set to retire after his fight on April 23rd. This is obviously tough news for Fury fans to swallow, as he has been at the top of the boxing world for quite some time, and is definitely a fan favorite in the sport. Fury will be defending his title one last time, when he squares off against Dillian Whyte in London at the end of the month. Fury has earned himself a very respectable record of 31-0-1, and by respectable, I mean it has essentially no flaws in it. The man has literally never lost a fight over the course of 32 fights in 14 years. His fight against Whyte is quite possibly the biggest of his career, since he knows that it will be his last ever. Yes, the odds are decently weighed in Fury's favor, but we have to give Whyte some credit. He too has a very respectable record of 28-2 over the course of 11 years. Whyte certainly brings a similar record and similar experience, and is clearly in contention for the heavyweight title. So, will he be the first person to ever make Tyson fall? Will Whyte be able to take the belt from the champion in his last fight ever? I'm personally going to have to say no. I think Tyson has been training harder than ever because he knows that he needs to win this fight. He has worked much too hard to have an undefeated career, and to throw it away at the last fight would be devastating. Fury will win this fight, I guarantee it. But after he wins this fight, will he be taking a break, or will he finally answer the bell that has been ringing in his ear for quite some time now? The bell has been rung. Will Fury answer? Francis Ngannou has been the heavyweight champion in the UFC since he knocked out the former champion, Stipe Miocic, at UFC 260 back in March of 2021, and he proved that he deserved to be the champion when he defended his title at UFC 270, defeating challenger Cyril Gane. Ngannou is definitely one of the best fighters at the heavyweight class, and is currently sitting at the number 3 spot in pound-for-pound fighters on the MMA's global rankings list. And yet, the UFC is unsure on whether or not they are going to offer him a new contract. Ngannou entered his last fight with a nagging knee injury, and was required to go under the knife to fix it, so he won't be able to fight for quite some time, which is adding to the UFC's concerns on signing him to another long-term contract. This is not sitting well with Ngannou, who feels as though he has earned the contract despite his recent injury, and it's hard to disagree. He has been in the UFC since 2015, and has only lost twice in that time. Ngannou has a very respectable record of 17-3 over 20 pro fights, and has proven that he is one of the best fighters alive right now. He has knocked out 12 opponents in his career, and has only won by submission 4 times and won by decision once. He likes to end his fights early, quickly hopping on the offensive and putting his opponent on their heels. He is 35 right now, which is obviously quite a few years past a fighter's prime, and a knee injury that requires surgery to repair is usually not a great sign in terms of longevity for a fighter that works as fast and as brutal as Ngannou. So, if the UFC sticks to their guns and refuses to re-sign the current heavyweight champion of the UFC, then where will his next fight lie? Will he finally get his wish and get to take on Tyson Fury? Next, Ngannou has wanted to fight Fury for quite some time. Ngannou has fancied a fight with the greatest heavyweight boxer for quite some time now, but it seemed like a pipe dream. But now, with both figures possibly leaving their respective leagues, this might be the perfect time for the two warriors to square off against one another. Fury will be officially retired from pro boxing come April 24th, and Ngannou may not have a UFC contract to his name following the recovery from his knee surgery. So, will it finally be time for these two titans to clash? It seems like it is much more possible now than ever. Ngannou has stated that the fight is inevitable, and the pair will eventually meet in the ring. Ngannou was recently interviewed and was asked about the potential matchup, and he said, "I don't really care about what will be. I just think it will be a fight against Tyson Fury." Ngannou said, "It can be in a phone booth or wherever, but that fight will happen. That fight will happen." Ngannou can say whatever he wants, but that won't make this fight any closer to happening if Fury does not want to do it. Ngannou is obviously hopeful that he will get the fight, as he wants to prove that he is the best heavyweight fighter in the world, regardless of fighting style, which is incredibly bold, but besides the point. If Fury does not want to take this fight, he simply won't, and that will be the end of it. If Fury wins his fight on April 23rd, which I think he will, then he might just want to hang up the gloves and call it a career. But at the same time, he may want to put the gloves on one last time in an unofficial exhibition match and prove that he can defeat any heavyweight fighter in the world. Fury was also asked recently about the possibility of fighting Ngannou, and he said, "I don't count that as a real boxing fight. It's not a boxing fight. That's going to be a special fight. That will be in a cage in 4-ounce gloves in Las Vegas at the Raiders Stadium." From this quote alone, it seems that Tyson Fury is not very interested in the fight. He clearly thinks that the fight will be set up to favor Ngannou in any way possible, just so that he has a more fair shot at beating Tyson Fury. But that actually may not be the case at all. It seems like Tyson Fury may be stalling. I say that because Ngannou has clearly stated the terms of the fight, and none of them suggest that it would be an MMA matchup, but in fact, fact, a full regulation boxing match instead. Ngannou knows this fight will need to be a boxing match if he wants it to happen. Ngannou was recently asked about the rules of this fight and what he expects from the fight, and Ngannou responded by saying, obviously he will not come to MMA. That's not something that would happen. He would get killed. It seems like Ngannou has accepted the fact that if this fight is going to happen, that it's going to have to be in the ring with boxing rules. But that seems to be no issue for him. Even though Fury is the best heavyweight boxer in the world, Ngannou is certain that he at least stands a chance in the ring, simply because he is also a heavyweight fighter. Ngannou said, when you see heavyweights getting into the octagon or in the ring, everybody could knock everybody out. That's a fact. And it's also not easy to knock somebody out, and it could go to a decision. We've seen it. Everything is possible. I personally think that Ngannou is crazy thinking that he can just magically convert to boxing and beat Tyson Fury, but I do think he is right about anything being possible. While I still think that Ngannou would get trounced by Fury, I do think that he stands a better chance against Fury in a boxing match than Fury stands against Ngannou in an MMA match. We have to see Fury's mobility, and I don't think it would translate very well to grappling or floor work. And as I mentioned earlier, Ngannou does win the majority of his fights through knockout and using punches as his knockout method, which translates much better to boxing than boxing would to MMA. But it still seems like Ngannou is fully ready for this fight to be announced, and Fury is only concerned with his last bout coming up at the end of April, which is fair enough. He is obviously still a pro boxer until the end of the month, and should only be concerned about that fight until it's over. But after the fight, he should technically be open to any challenge, right? Well, according to Fury, he still seems a tad hesitant to fight Ngannou, but is seemingly open to the idea. As he said, I will have retired from competitive championship boxing, and I'll be ready to do the crossover fights completely. This fight is still far from official, but we may just have the heavyweight matchup of the century on our hands later this year. Thanks all for today. Thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.